Hello everyone, Stjepan here. Today I have a very special game for you. I'm happy that I have the honor to cover a game by one of my favorite chess YouTubers, Zibbit. If you haven't seen his channel, do check it out. I will link it in the description below. And this is the game he played in the Iceland North Congress in April of 2018. So Zibbit is really called Ingvar Johannesson. He's rated 2343. He's a FIDE master, and in this game he had the white pieces against Kristinn Thorgeirsson, who is about 30 points lower rated than him, so 2317. Also a FIDE master, so two pretty strong opponents, especially considering my own games which I cover on the channel. And once again, if you haven't seen his YouTube channel, there's plenty of great learning resources and a lot of fun videos to watch, so do check it out. And Zibbit lately covered one of my games, and he did it without using the engine, and he only shared his own thoughts throughout the game. And he did it without looking at the game prior to that, and I'm going to do the same thing. The only thing I do know is which opening they played, and I don't know anything else. So I'm going to go through my own thoughts. It's the Catalan opening, which I've never played with the white pieces before. I'm an e4 player, but I do know some basic theory, so I hope I will be able to manage to cover the game properly. So Zibbit opened with pawn to c4, the English opening. We have knight to f6 and now g3, which is the Anglo-Indian defense. It could still be the Indian defense, but it will soon transpose to the Catalan. So e6. Bishop to g2, this is why g3 was played anyway, and I believe those are all the main moves. d5, black is striking in the center, gaining space and looking for counterplay immediately, and basically using the fact that white has virtually wasted time to play g3, bishop to g2, while at the same time he could have developed some pieces to control the center more comfortably, such as knight to f3 or d4, as in the normal Queen's Gambit declined positions. Here Ingvar played knight to f3, we have bishop to e7, black is also developing normally, and now both sides castle, and we have d4. And now this is a hybrid, in my opinion, in between the Catalan and the English. I'm not really sure how to categorize this, but pretty soon it will be the Catalan opening, the closed Catalan. So knight b to d7, and I believe that this is the only move in this position for black. Developing the knight to c6 is a mistake, I think, because you have to keep control over the c5 square and the e5 square, and I believe that in some positions black will either play b6, bishop to b7, or try to push through c5 and gain space on the queen side. Here white plays queen to c2, reinforcing the c4 pawn and creating threats along this long diagonal, because there's always a possibility of the knight coming to g5, after which the black knight can't move. Knight to e4. I think this is all mainline theory. I'm not sure though. I've covered several games at the candidates tournament, and Catalan was the most frequently played opening, especially after the Alpha Zero match against Stockfish, and I believe this is one of the more popular lines. In fact, I believe that there was a game at the candidates played from this exact position. I'm not sure though. Here white plays knight to c3. Of course, black can never take dc4 because the knight is hanging. And now I think the best move is to take. I don't think there's anything else for black. If I was black here, I'd briefly consider the move, the move f5, but that would probably be too weakening. But it might be a fun option. Anyway, now that I think about it, I'm going to check the move with the engine afterwards, but after f5, I think that white shouldn't be taking on e4, because after f takes e4, the knight on f3 is dislodged, so I'm wondering whether this is playable or not. But Zibbit took, knight takes c3, black took, queen takes c3, d takes c4, queen takes c4. I'm not sure if you are obliged to take immediately, perhaps you are. Yeah, you can't allow b5, so queen takes c4, a6, and sorry for not knowing the theory perfectly, this might be still a theoretical line. I don't know the theory that well in the Catalan. So now rook to d1 was played, developing one of his last pieces, and I think if you compare the positions, White's light squared bishop is definitely superior to black's, which is still stuck on c8. I'd even say that white's dark squared bishop is better because it has a lot of scope on this diagonal, and the bishop in e7 isn't that useful, really. It doesn't have any good squares. Perhaps the bishop should be placed on f6 but to weaken this diagonal, but I'm not sure that that would bring anything. And not to mention the rooks, of course, or the queen. And I believe that, first of all, if this is theory, I think that, practically speaking, black is worse, at least visually, and I'd always have white in this position if I had to choose, but it might not be. Here, black played rook to a7, which is, I believe, to be able to play b5, bishop b7. I'm not sure why he did that. That's a pretty strange move. Okay, yeah, but couldn't he have played rook to b8? I'm wondering what's wrong with rook to b8. Perhaps if the queen moves and the c7 pawn falls so that the rook isn't under attack, but I'm going to have to check this move out as well. So f5 a few moves ago, and now rook to b8. But rook to a7. e4, if nothing, rook a7 was a slight waste of time, in my opinion, and e4 can be played here. Perhaps black should have played knight to f6. I don't know if there's anything wrong with that. Here after rook to d1, knight to f6 to stop e4, but there must have been a reason why rook to a7 was played. So e4 here, b5, yeah, he wanted to play bishop to b7, but couldn't he have played bishop to b7 after rook to b8? We will see. So queen back to c2, bishop to b7, bishop to e3, developing his last piece, connecting the rooks. Now white has finished development. Black still has the queen to develop, and I think that black should now aim for the move c5, although I'm not sure whether that would bring much, because after d5, okay, let's see, c5, d5, e takes d, bishop takes d5. Yeah, that's hanging for now, because the queen still isn't open. So yeah, I think black should have played knight to f6 instead of rook to a7, but still. So now knight to b6 is played. Obviously not going for c5. d5, ooh, that's a very aggressive move. Okay, let's see, e takes, knight takes. Can't this be taken? Okay, let's see. So that's obviously pawn sacrifice. And Zibbit is obviously using the fact that the knight is pinned to the rook. And so rook to a7 was, I might even call it a blunder, I'm not sure. I just think that that move is too weakening, especially because of this tactical possibility of playing d5 to weaken the diagonal and attack the rook. So now e takes d5, e takes d5. What happens on bishop takes? Why doesn't the bishop take? Yeah, the bishop can't take, because I believe if bishop takes here, then the knight would simply move and the bishop is pinned. And wait, let's try this. So if here, then okay, let's see, bishop takes bishop. The knight can't take because the rook is pinned. So if here, perhaps this would just be enough. I'm not sure. No, yeah, this is losing a... No, okay, this is just equal because white has already sacrificed the pawn. Let's go back. So let's see, e takes d5, he played rook to a8, but after e takes d5, let's see, bishop takes d5. Bishop takes d5, does the knight have any better discoveries? What am I missing? Okay, so he can take the knight first. So let's say bishop takes knight, c takes b, and now after this the bishop is lost. Yeah, because now if the queen tries to attack the knight, then simply this works and white is up a piece, so that's why. So okay, after e takes d5, knight to rook to a8 was played, knight to e5 anyway, and now the knight is, I believe, going into c6. So if bishop takes, pawn takes, and white will have a great outpost on the d7 square. Here bishop f6 was played, which isn't really attacking that much besides the knight because the diagonal isn't that weak. Knight to c6 still. So now if bishop takes, I guess pawn takes. The queen could take also, but I think it's much better to take with the pawn. Okay, so queen to d7 was played. Knight to a5, attacking the bishop. This is a great move because now if the bishop moves, then I believe d6 is winning because of the rook on the diagonal. Here he played rook a to b8, saving the bishop, but now, yeah, this is now even worse, because now after rook a to b8, knight takes, rook takes, d6 is much stronger. So, okay, rook a to b8, yeah, knight takes b7, rook takes b7, d6. That's exactly what Ingvar Thor, aka Zibbit, played. So here, why doesn't he save the rook? Okay, let's see. See, he took on d6 and gave up the exchange, but let's see if he plays rook to b8. Yeah, this is, yeah, he's losing the whole rook there. So, okay, after d6, c takes d6 has to be played. Now bishop takes b7, queen takes b7, bishop takes b6, exchanging some pieces. Queen takes b6, now rook to d5. I think this is a very strong move, actually, because rook to d5 is stopping the pawn from advancing immediately and preparing to double the rooks on the isolated pawn on the weakest target. And now, despite the fact that white is down a pawn, the exchange up means that white is materially winning, especially in such a simplified position. I believe that white has an insurmountable advantage. But let's see what black played. He played bishop to d4, which is, I believe, just a waste of tempo. Okay, he's creating a battery on the f2 pawn, but after rook to d1 or queen to d2, the bishop is attacked twice and it has to move. So Zibbit played queen to d2, attacking the bishop, bishop to e5, now saving the pawn. Now, okay, rook to c1. Well, if he played rook to d1, then any rook here would mean that this sacrifice works, because after d takes c, rook takes would be checkmate. But he played rook to c1, rook to e8 now. Well, I couldn't really suggest a move for black besides this. Okay, here Zibbit played king to g2, prophylactic move, putting the king into some more safety. h6, black is making luft, making sure there aren't any checkmates on the back rank. b3. This is at least a FIDE master move, if not a grandmaster move, because he is getting rid of his last weakness in the position. I love this move. So after b3, black virtually has no targets in the position and no attacking plan. Prior to this, he could have considered attacking the b2 pawn, but now, if I were black, I really don't know what I should do here. Okay, so b3, b4 by black, which is arguably creating a second weakness, because now he's going to have to play a5 in order to defend the pawn. Queen to e2. Queen to e2. I don't understand this move. Wait. Okay, so firstly the bishop is pinned, so there are no discoveries yet, because queen takes rook. But what's the purpose here? Okay, he's trying to play the move f4, I guess, and after f4 the rook is lost. So rook to e6, saving the rook. Rook to c8 check, forcing the king to h7, king h7, queen to c2 check, getting out of the pin, because now the white queen was misplaced. g6 has to be played. Well, he could consider playing rook to g6, but I think that would be bad because the rook would be pinned. So g6. Now f7 is a permanent weakness, queen to c6, trying to trade queens, bishop to d4, accepting a trade. Well, after queen to c6, the only move is queen to a7. Yeah, the only move is queen to a7, after which rook to c7 wins the f7 pawn and the game. So yeah, he had to trade queens, so bishop to d4, queen b6, bishop b6, rook to c6, attacking the bishop and the weak a6 pawn. Bishop to c5. He doesn't take here. Why doesn't he take the pawn? He played rook to d2. Okay, another prophylactic move, and this is why he's 2300. Because if he'd taken the pawn on a6, then rook to e2 would mean that the f2 pawn is falling, so this is a great move. Rook to e1, trying to get behind somewhere, but there isn't really anywhere behind to get to. Now rook takes a6 safely. King to g7, defending f7, rook to c2, h5, rook to d2, king h7, h4. Yeah, black is now just waiting, and now white can safely improve his position. King to g7, repeating moves, king f3, getting the king into the center of the board, activating his king, and now White is playing a piece up because the king is more active. Rook c1. Rook to c6, pinning the bishop. Now the bishop can't move. Now this tactic actually works. I believe that rook takes d6 would work, because if bishop takes d6, then rook takes rook, and white has won another pawn. So here rook to c3 check, saving the rook with tempo, and now this tactic doesn't work anymore. King g2, king h7, rook to c7, attacking f7. King to g7, rook to d7. Now perhaps even considering giving up the exchange here for a pawn. I'm not sure though, I think it's unnecessary. Rook c1, rook e2, rook to a1, now trying to get to increase the advantage, and I believe that I think that rook to e7 can be played. Yeah, rook e to e7, he played that. And now, of course, after rook takes a2, the f2 pawn is falling, but white can take on f7, so rook takes f7, defending f2, king g8, rook g7, king h8, rook g to f7, king g8, rook to f3, now permanently defending the f2 pawn, rook d2, rook d8. This is now resignable, I think, and you can't really defend this position. Let's see how he finished it. King g7, rook d to f8. Oh, nice. Now he's threatening to get here and force the king into the corner, after which rook to h8 is checkmate. So now bishop to d4, preventing rook to h8. Rook 3 to f7 check anyway. King to h6, rook to e8. Oh, nice. He's going to play rook to e7, rook e to e7, and then this is checkmate. And is there a defense to this? Okay, in the game his opponent played rook to b2, and after rook e to e7 he resigned. This is now, I believe that this can't be defended anymore. Let's just see. Okay, let's say obviously his only move is g5. Check. Here. No, this can't be played. Wait. I'm doing something wrong. Okay, g5. I'm an idiot. This is checkmate. Okay. Okay, so g5 doesn't work. This is just a mate, inevitably. So let's see. If he didn't play after rook to e8, if he didn't play rook to b2, could he save the position? Well, not really, because here if he plays g5, this is still checkmate. Yeah, it's just lost. I'll go over the game with the engine now just to see whether my ideas were correct. Okay, and I'll turn on the openings book to see whether this was theory. Okay, this is all obviously theory. More than 6,000 games from this position. Here, okay, knight b to d7 is actually an uncommon move. The most common move is d takes c4 and queen to c2. So without knight b to d7, pretty much the same variation. But knight b to d7, queen to c2, knight to e4 is a weird move. Black usually plays c6 here, and I guess this might even be a Slav defense somehow after c6. But knight, okay, c6 has been played 932 times, and it's equal for black. And knight to e4 is plus 0.5, and it has been played only 17 times. So. And the best move here is knight to c3. And here, knight takes c3 is the best move. Let's just see f5 whether this loses. Ooh, okay. Yeah, this does lose because, yeah, I'm losing the d5 pawn. Okay, here. Yeah, this just loses a pawn. Okay, so knight c3, knight takes c3. Queen takes c3 has to be played. This is all okay. Okay, wait. Queen takes c3, d takes c4 is a mistake. Once again, c6 should be played. D takes c4 is +1 for white. After queen takes c4, a6 is another mistake. b6 should be played, and bishop to b7, which makes sense. But after b6, doesn't the knight have any good discoveries? Wait, b6, let's say knight here. Oh, I believe this is theory. Is this theory? No, it's not. So the engine is suggesting that the position is almost equal after knight takes c5. Okay, because the queen is attacked, so white has to take. And now rook to b8. Well, it might be okay. I prefer white. Okay, it's almost +1 anyway. But after queen takes c4, a6, this is plus 1.7, and on such a high level, on the FM level, this is winning for white. The best move is queen to c2 apparently. Queen to c2, why is queen to c2? And after queen to c2, black is supposed to play a5. Here Zibbit played rook to d1, which is a good move as well. What's the point of queen to c2? Let's see. a6, queen to c2. Let's say knight to f6, bishop to d2. Well, I don't understand. This is an engine move. I just don't see the purpose of queen to c2. But let's go back. a6, rook d1, rook a7 plus 2. Okay, yeah, definitely a mistake. What he should have played here was either b5, c6 or b6. Rook a7 is a mistake. e4 was a mistake. Queen to c2 was once again the best move. Once again, I don't understand the purpose of that move. But e4, b5 is a mistake. Queen to c2 was played now after b5 was attacking the queen, but the engine is happy now. Bishop b7, bishop e3, knight to b6 is a mistake. d5 is the best move. ed5, ed5, rook to a8. Yeah, rook to a7 was a complete waste of tempo and a blunder. So now let's see this. Let's see. Okay, I was calculating in the game. Knight to e5 was played, but let's see if after e takes d5, black can play bishop takes d5. No, because knight to e5, c5 would have to be played. Yeah. Why? Okay, what's wrong with c6? c6. Yeah, knight takes c6. Oh, I'm blind. Okay, so rook to a8, knight e5, bishop f6, knight c6, queen d7 is a mistake. Bishop takes c6 should have been played to ease off the pressure. Queen d7, knight a5, rook a to b8, knight takes b7, rook takes b7, d6. This is winning for white. I mean, you can't really stop white from winning after he wins the exchange here. And a nice finish as well. This move I love. Rook to d5 is, I believe, a great move. It's a mistake though. The engine loves rook a to c1. I think from a human perspective, rook to d5 is a great move because you are stopping any possibility of counterplay for black. And if black can't amplify the strength of his d-pawn, then he doesn't really have anything in the position. So I think rook to d5 was the best move from the human perspective. Bishop d4 is just a waste of time. Queen to d2, bishop e5, rook c1. Rook c1 is a mistake. a4 should have been played, but still, I believe that it's good. Centralizing your pieces. Rook e8, king to g2, and now this is a very nice finish. b3 isn't even mentioned. f4 should have been played, but I love b3. b3 is my favorite move of the game. It just shows how superior white's position was, that he had time to reorganize all of his pawns and all of his pieces to make sure he doesn't have a single weakness in the position. b4 was, of course, a mistake. Queen e2, rook e6. Yeah, this is now just winning, especially after the queen exchange. There isn't really a way for black to hold the position. Let's just see the end position here, whether he could have saved it. Wait, I'm wondering about this. This is +5, so not terminal. Wait. King to g7, rook to d7 check. Okay, king to h6 should have been played here to make sure he survives a bit longer. Bishop d4, rook 3 to f7 check, king h6, rook to e8. And his best try here, of course, rook to b2 is +50 or a mate. So rook to e8, he should have played bishop to g7, and after bishop to g7, rook e to e7, g5, just giving up the bishop. But wait, how does... Oh, okay, because this isn't checkmate now, because he has to waste another move to move the rook. But still, yeah, a nice game. Unfortunately for me, an opening which I'm not that familiar with. I'm not a d4 player, but still a great lesson for my opening repertoire. And once again, I'm very happy that I got a chance to cover one of Zibbit's games, especially that it was a very recent one and a nice victory with the white pieces. And once again, if you are unfamiliar with his work, he has one of the best chess channels on YouTube. You should definitely check him out and look at some of his videos. And by the way, he's going to be making the video on this same game, and he's going to be publishing it this evening. So make sure you check out his view on the game and his take on the analysis. Okay, everybody. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you got something from this game, and stay tuned for more chess. Thanks very much. Bye.